Hello, welcome to the new CrossRail 444X webinar. My name is Johan Alston. We have a couple Everest staff members on, and and I will introduce each of them individually. If you haven't taken our webinar before, or any webinars before, if this is new to you, just a couple logistics. Everything is based off of your Wi-Fi connection. So if you're having some issues, it may be because of your Wi-Fi. We do these pretty often, so it should run pretty flawlessly. But if there are any issues, or you're wondering what's going on, or if you have questions, you can type your questions in the question box there that you see on your screen. And we have a couple of us on that are looking at that just to make sure you guys are good. So there, I see people just kind of still signing on, so I'll kind of just slowly get into it and focus on, let's see, the schedule here. Sorry, I'm just changing the slide. There we go. So obviously we'll do some introductions and some logistics, the agenda for today. Do some intros for the team that are on. We have multiple of us from the sales team, from engineering, and I will be leading the presentation myself. We'll talk a little bit about K2 and Everest and our background. I think it's important for you guys to know where we come from. And then we'll do a little brief product overview on our products. And then we'll introduce the new CrossRail 44X system and all the new components and improvements and features of the product that have come in, which one of them is the biggest, is that we're moving to a single tool system. So I realize some of you guys on here might be either from distribution or using our products or looking at using our products, but we'll go over everything. And there's plenty of time here, so this is kind of a product introduction, a product overview. So if you have questions, feel free to type them in, and if they're relevant, Nick or Dakota can bring them in, and if they're on topic, we'll discuss them right away, or we'll leave plenty of time towards the end to talk about some of your guys' questions. So again, my name is Johan Alston. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing. I'm assuming I never really turned my camera on, but I realized it's good to see each other's faces. So I'm here sheltering in place in my home. It is an old Arco module on the wall. I didn't do that for the webinar. It's just an old piece of art that I had there. I've been in the industry for almost 15 years. I started out as an installer back in 2004, and then I moved on to manufacturing. I was with Quick Mount for 12 years and helped them develop products and technical training. So this is my favorite part, is doing the technical training. Usually they're in person, but obviously we're all trying to deal with this coronavirus, and we're all working from home. So I appreciate everybody signing on and getting on board. And another ex-Quick Mounter, I've worked with Mr. Pack here, Nicholas Pack. There he is, sheltering in his place. We worked together for years. He's been in the industry for about 8 years now, and working on the sales side as well as some product development and product training. So he's got a lot of experience, especially with our design tool. We're not going to focus on that. We do have a separate webinar on that, but if you're interested in that, that's an ongoing product that's getting improved all the time with all these new features. So we're going to obviously focus on some of the new product introductions. So some of our other staff members that are on today, Dakota, I feel like I should give her credit because she's in the background all the time, helping us out, keeping all of our marketing looking great, all the documents on the website, and she's behind the scenes here on the webinar, keeping things rolling. So she's a big reason why we look nice when we're doing our technical trainings and sales. And Mr. Tyler Wiggins, he's our product development manager, and he runs our engineering department. Very smart guy. He's been working in the industry for, if you want to jump in there, Tyler, you can, but I think it's about, you run around 5 years almost, maybe?
Yeah,
but I've been
about
working
5 years
Tyler.
now.
Nice. Yeah, so 5 years. I would say if you're in the industry for 5+ years, you've seen a lot of changes go on. So Tyler's been working on product development with all of our engineers and our sales department and myself, and we meet every day talking about new product improvements and working on a ton of new stuff. So this is really, really exciting. Today we're releasing some new products. So this is a big deal for all of us at the Everest team. So we're announcing this product. Timelines will vary because of distribution working through legacy stock. We're not going to stop selling some of our other racking systems. We'll get into that in a minute, but it will take some time. So we're just introducing it to show you what's coming. On the sales side, our management team is Ross Gerard. Some of you might know him. He's our VP of sales. He runs the whole sales department. And Brett Nielsen is our director of business development. Both of these guys have been in the industry for a long time. I've worked with them for years. Great guys, really know their stuff with the products, and they've been driving a lot of these product demands, listening to you guys out in the field and what you need to do, or what you need for improvements. And we're making a lot of changes that they have been praying for a long time. So, and along with the other outside sales crew members, we have a lot of new guys, actually. We got Mark, who just joined, Brad, who just joined in the Midwest. Both of them have some experience in the industry from various degrees. Nick, I already introduced, who's managing the Northwest side. Mr. Al Harsh is our big man on campus out in the East. He's been with Everest a long time, and he really knows his stuff. He handles almost the entire East Coast and has been doing so for years. And Ulysses is now in Utah, actually. He used to be with us in the San Diego office, but now he's actually back in his home state of Utah and servicing and helping installers out there. So we have a lot of coverage. We also have a great inside sales team that helps with client services. Alejandra Santana, she manages the inside sales team, and they're very knowledgeable, and they do a lot of technical servicing and sales. And if you're trying to look for your nearest distributor and where a product is, this fantastic team is always there helping out. And some of them are on here, probably laughing. So I'm introducing them and showing them our goofy pictures. This is us in San Diego. So it's a great team. I'm happy to be on board with Everest. I joined in 2018, and we have offices all over the world, actually. So if you don't know, Everest is a part of K2 Systems. So if you see that K2 brand, that is our parent company, and we have offices all over the world. So Everest is the Mexico and U.S. division, and but we work under the same umbrella, but we have offices all over the world. Germany is where it started. We have offices in France, Italy, South Africa, Brazil, England. So there's a lot of experience and a lot of different applications. We have over 180 employees. We have distributors worldwide, and we have installations all over the world. So this shows our experience. We obviously have a lot of experience from different backgrounds, and every week there's meetings with engineers from all over and all the different offices, and we talk about products and some of the challenges. So it's pretty exciting, and we get to develop our products for our selective markets. So in the U.S., obviously we have specific roof types, but we have a full product line that covers all the different roof types: flat roofs, comp shingle, tile, metal roofs. We have ground mount system. So I'll briefly introduce all of them here, and we'll get to all the new systems. But the whole system is basically the foundation of our system is the CrossRail. So the CrossRail system, our products that we have now on the market is CrossRail 44X, 48X, 48XL, which is a bigger version, a thicker version of 48, and 80, which is used mostly for our ground mount system. It can be used in many different applications on commercial, but a lot of installers are using it for ground mount. So the number that is associated with the CrossRail is the size of the system, so the size of the rail. So 48 is the millimeter size, 80 is the size, and now we've introduced 44X. So basically, we've taken the good parts of all of our systems and looked at the new codes and we've redesigned and optimized this rail to be better performing, lighter weight, but not a light rail. A lot of people think, oh, it's a light rail because it's smaller. It's not a light rail that's going to be limited to California. This is a optimized rail that is lighter weight, but it actually performs very well and can do forward 6-foot spans in different applications. And we'll get it all into that as we start introducing all these parts and components. But all of these systems have a similar profile. You can see some of the outlines there. But one of the biggest features is that you have integrated wire management in the rail channel. That's a big deal for installers trying to clean up wires and not have to clip everything to the side. We do have some products that clip to the side, some wire management products, and I'll show all that as we get going. But one of the big positives of this system is that you can put the wires into the rail channel, and we've made some improvements to our components that I'll show you to improve that and have more room for wires. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But we do have various lengths, but the most common are the 166-inch for standard 60-cell modules. You can do obviously 72-cell as well, but this is the standard sizes. We did jump up to a 180 because we're starting to see some of those wider residential modules come into play. So that's another reason why we jumped to that size as a standard. So 166 and 180 is our standard, but we have various sizes that you can get if you really need to, but most of our distributors are stocking that 166 and now that 180. One of the biggest things that this system improvement that's coming is we're moving to a single tool system for our complete line. And again, I will get into every single component individually. I'm just showing you kind of an overview of the system. So one of the biggest parts of this system is that the CrossRail it's applicable in so many different applications. One of our most popular ones is the shared rail system that can also be used as dual rail. So standard systems are 2 rails per row of modules, pretty standard. Our CrossRail, obviously, that's our most popular that's going to be installed in, but we're starting to see a lot of installers start to transition that into a shared rail system. And you can see a little image there that shows the shared rail where you're sharing one rail for 2 rows of modules. The beauty of this is that you use all the same components as dual rail. So if you're doing shared rail and for some reason one row needs to work as dual rail, the same mid clamps and the same end clamps work in the same application for dual or shared rail. So you're not buying a special system. There are some components to make it easier for shared rail, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we're mostly just showing you an overview of what's out there. So with shared rail, there are different orientations. You can do landscape, portrait. Again, I'm not going to do a whole presentation on shared rail, that we have a whole separate webinar for that and videos. But one thing to note is that you can do it in landscape or portrait. And this is just showing you the different options. One that's really popular is doing what we call shared rail tucked. So if you look at that image on the right there, you've got that shared rail in the middle, and then the bottom and top rail are tucked in, just like you would do with a standard dual rail system. But it's just for the aesthetics on that first rail and that last rail, you don't need to have it on the front. You can tuck it in. That way you don't have to have a skirt. In my opinion, I think systems look really good if you do it right. And aesthetics obviously is an important thing. And some of the rail-free and shared rail systems, they tend to need a skirt on the front because, you know, they have that rail in the front or their hardware in the front. The beauty of the CrossRail shared rail system is you can kind of hybridize it, where you can do that dual rail like you see, or sorry, that shared rail like you see in the middle there, where you've got 2 modules landing on that one rail. And then you have the bottom rail tucked in more like a dual rail standard system. And it looks really clean, and you can hide all the rails. And now with the new Yeti clamp that we have, that's our new hidden end clamp, you can tuck the rails really into underneath the system. So there are some options. And again, we do have a separate webinar that talks about our shared rail system versus dual rail. And, you know, I always recommend, if you've never done shared rail or you've never done Everest systems at all, don't just jump into shared rail. Start with doing a dual rail system, get familiar with all the components. I have all of them set here, and I'm going to show them one by one and show you all the differences all the changes that are happening. But this is just my little guide and my recommendation that I see from an installer perspective is getting familiar with all the components. If you do dual rail first, you're gonna get much more familiar with all the parts and layout, and then doing a shared rail next is pretty simple. And then, obviously starting with like maybe a 2-3 row system, so you can kind of take your time to understand the system, which is not really hard. You do 1 or 2 jobs and you got it, and maybe even 1. And it's really pretty intuitive. But you could see like that number 3 picture there down the bottom. That's a great install on a standing seam metal roof. You can see how that roof blends well, where sometimes landscape does translate better, and landscape, I would say, is more favorable for shared rail, whereas dual rail is, obviously you can do both on both sides, but portrait is more favorable for dual rail. So it just depends on what you got going on. And in our base tool that I mentioned, which is our online design tool, we have a separate webinar for that. You can see the difference and understand what works better in what scenario. So check that out and see what works best for you. And we can do training separately. We are hosting trainings privately for any installation crew that wants to take advantage of this shelter in place and learn about new systems. We can schedule that. So not to spend too much time on that, but other CrossRail systems that we have that use the same rails is our tilt-up system. This is a very popular system in the Southwest as well as Mexico. We have an office in Guadalajara, and this is one of their main systems that they're using out there. The beauty of this system is it's the same, like I said, same components, mid clamps, end clamps, optimizer mounting kits, ground lugs, all the same parts as the full CrossRail family. The only additional part to make it a tilt-up system is this little climber set that you see here, and I think I actually have one here. So actually, I usually don't use the camera, but it's kind of fun to show you. This is the little climber set, and if you have the rail here, basically, the reason why the system is called CrossRail is because we used to, in Germany, when they first introduced this product, there was, north-south rails and then east-west rails that were literally crossing, and we're still doing this when you do your tilt-up, just the tilt-up system. This climber set allows you to install into the rail and then grab the side channel of this rail and lock it into place onto the rail, as you see in that image there, where then you can do the still, I guess you could say traditional CrossRail system. And the beauty of this is that tilt connector, that's the other part that connects, it allows you to use the back leg is a basically leftover piece of cut rail. So we have a guide in our installation manual that shows you to get the different degrees and what size to cut for all the different lengths. And the beauty is your scrap now becomes a part of the system that is the tilt leg, and it's engineered to do that. So you can see a system down there that's in Tucson, Arizona. I was on that job, and there's so much flexibility in the system because you have, if you look closely, that slot in that tilt connector allows you to adjust the system. So if you've got an uneven roof, you can install these legs, you can pre-assemble things, and you can put it in, and it's very easy to adjust on the fly. So you can install it, and even when the modules are in, you can lift parts and move things around to have some adjustability for different heights and whatnot. So there's the CrossRail system. There's the standard L foot, depending on what you're attaching to. And then there's your tilt-up connector set, and then the climber set as well. So those are the clamps are the same as the full CrossRail system. So you'll be familiar with those. So, and then I mentioned our CrossRail 80. Our 80X is usually used in the application of the ground mount system. So you could see that there in action. You can use the 80 in other applications as well, commercial. Some people have used it on residential systems if they need a bigger rail. It can be used in all different applications. And again, the same components. We do have some metal roof solutions, standing seam, and all of these apply to the new products that we're coming out with and some of the enhancements. So, and I'll get to that in the next couple slides here. But standing seam, a lot of people don't know we have the power clamp. That is our own standing seam clamp. We have two different sizes. One is a mini and a standard, basically a 2-pin and a single pin. And that works beautifully when you're doing shared rail or dual rail, because you have that adjustability north-south on the roof with the mount itself. Our mini rail is a nice system that it's almost, I mean, it could technically be qualified as a rail-free system, where it actually allows you to connect 2 modules on each side of the mini rail. I do have a little sample here, and it has these holes here for going into the sheet metal. So you're going into the sheet metal, and then it's got this EPDM pad here that waterproofs that connection on top of the trapezoidal, where the top of the ridge, or the high side of that metal trapezoidal is flat, and this installs on there with the screws. It's 4 total, 1 on each side here, but this has some adjustability so you can move back and forth and get between 2 modules. So you would put your mid clamp into the middle there, and then 2 modules would land on each side, and it would be basically a mini rail. So that is, those are our metal roof solutions. We do have some roof attachments for all kinds of different roof types. We have our comp mount, our XP, Everflash XP. We have a slider kit for shared rail. I mentioned the standing seam clamps. And we do have some tile hooks as well. And we do have some new tile hooks coming onto the market, and you'll probably see that next on our next round. Another product that's brand new that's a part of this introduction is our T-Foot X. This is a really cool product. I actually have one right here. This is we call it a T-foot because it looks like a T, but it's basically like a big L foot that has 2 connections. So if you're going into a flat roof, like a rolled asphalt comp flat roof, which is really popular here in the Bay Area. I'm in Berkeley, in San Francisco. There's a ton of residential flat rolled torch down comp shingle roofs, not shingle, but rolled roofs comp. This works great where you can use it with the chem link if you want. It's a 6-inch foot, and you have tons of adjustability, and this uses our standard T-bolts going into our rail, so you can attach your rail right up to that and have that T-foot. So this is a new product that's gaining a lot of attention, and that's right around the corner. We have the product on the way. I physically have one right here, and just so you see, one is a smooth side, and one is it's got these perforations here if you wanted to have that bite into the rail. That's preferred, so you have the options of both. So that comes with the T-bolt set. The lag bolts, we've been asking around if people want the lag bolts, and they prefer to have their own because it depends on what they're going into. Sometimes it's concrete, so it is not including structural lag screws, but we do sell those separately if you want that. And then last but not least, our D-Dome Railless system, which is a ballasted system. It's a dual tilt. Some of you might be familiar with this. It doesn't use a rail, but we call it Railless. It has a peak and a base, and our Eastern sales manager, Al Harsh, did a webinar on this, and he's got some fun little home videos he's been doing since we're all in quarantine here and shelter in place, and he's showing how some of these components go together. But we do have a separate webinar if you're interested in this product. So it's a dual tilt system, allows you to do avoid that inner row shading. It's just a different way of doing commercial ballasted. It actually requires less ballast, which is great, and you can get a little bit more production depending on the orientation. So that is in our base tool if you're interested in checking that out, and you can look on how to install that and where it makes the most sense. So getting into these components and what changes we've made. The components, again, the beauty of this CrossRail family system is all the different components go into the same rail channel. So basically all those rails that I showed you and all those applications, they all have the same top channel so that our MK3 goes inside of that. So we looked at our entire system, we looked at all the engineering, and we made some improvements. So the new CrossRail system, we're still carrying 48X, 48XL, and obviously 80. A 44 is that perfect kind of in between that is lighter weight but still functions across the nation, still gets 4 foot, 6 foot spans, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But so we've been introducing the CrossRail 44X, which I'll show you in a second here how the profiles look. They're slightly different. And then we've improved our mid clamp to have single tool features and a new kind of a little stem here, so you have more wire management. And again, I'll show you that here in the next couple slides. Our new Yeti clamp is already on the market, but we've improved it with the new hex, so it's in that single tool family. Our Everest ground lug is also available already, but is transitioning to single tool. And again, I will get to these individually. We'll talk about these all one by one. And then our single tool system, the 44X is a slightly different profile. So if you're familiar with our 48X and 48XL, it has one rail connector splice for both 48XL and X, which you see here. This is actually one splice for this, if you look closely, is the 48. I'm trying to show you the thickness there. Maybe I can open these blinds to show a little bit of brightness. This is the 48XL. It's a lot thicker on the extrusion. Same splice as for the 48X, which is a little bit lighter gauge on there, but it performs very well, and they use the same splice. The 44X is slightly different profile. You can see it's optimized. It's got a bigger box. It's lighter gauge, but it performs very well, and this has its own splice. So you will see that, and I'll show you part numbers here. If you're on the distribution side, I'm sure you're wondering what these are going to look like. So here's a good example. So basically, we took the benefits of 48X and 48XL because different installers were using it in higher snow loads on the East Coast where you get really, really high snow loads. You're probably using 48X. 48XL. You can use 48X on the East Coast. In fact, I think that's Al on the East Coast, probably number one rail he was using. Some use 48 because they want it a little bit beefier, but really we were finding that 48 was dominating. And then we looked in how can we optimize it and make it a little bit lighter weight. So 44 is that perfect in between where it is lighter gauge, but it still performs very well. So here's some key highlights of this new rail that you're going to see out. And again, that's 44X. So it's optimized to provide better performance. I want to make sure you guys understand it. While it is lighter gauge, it doesn't mean it's a light rail. A lot of people have their small, medium, and XL. That's not what we're doing here. This rail can be installed on the East Coast. Obviously, you want to look at your span charts, which we have on our website, and you can see where it performs best, and you can see where you might want to maybe still stick with 48XL, or you want to move down to 48X, or 44 makes the most sense for you. So we have new codes coming into place. Some of you might be familiar with ASC 716, which this is state by state, city by city is adopting and moving to the new codes that are laid out in IBC 2018. So that's where ASC 716 is coming into play. And you're starting to see basically, and we will do a webinar on this. It is on our website. If you go on our website, we have a whole section on this. And we do have our engineering letters for ASC 716 for 44X. So it is already available. We've already done the math. We've already done the testing. It's already there. So we're already preparing for 716 to be taken over, and we're already ready to go. So this is a big deal for certain areas because you're starting to see certain cities already moving to 716, I don't want to do a whole presentation on 716, which we will do later down the road, but 716 basically they redefined the roof zones. So it used to be, you have zone 1, 2, and 3, and they have different wind speeds. Well, now they've gotten way more specific on edge modules and interior modules and roof zones, and whether it's a gable, or, they're getting way more specific on the calculations and the wind speeds in certain areas and the roof zones. So we have taken all that into account with our engineering, and we do have 7/16 letters ready to go for 44X. So that's a big deal, and I'm sure some of you guys are wondering about that. And if you're multitasking on this webinar right now, this is when you want to pay attention, because this is where we're getting into the new aspects of not only code, but obviously the products and where we're adjusting. So we move pretty fast on our changes, and we have a lot of new stuff coming out right now. So this is an exciting time for Everest. And if you haven't used our system before, now's the time to try it out, because this 44X product is really performing well, and it's cost effective, lighter gauge. Like I said, it's easy to move around, where if you're not on the install crew, you might not value that, but I put this on my truck just a couple weeks ago, and I loaded up a bunch and brought it from Vista, our headquarters in San Diego, and I brought it up to the Bay Area for me and Nick to play around on his house, actually, and we'll have a video on that. And it was so light, I could pick up 4 rails no problem, married together, and throw it on the roof rack, and it was a cinch to tie down. So that plays a role. I mean, having heavier rails is not always beneficial. So like I said, it's lighter gauge, but it performs very well. It's certified up to 100-pound snow loads. And again, this is generalizing 4-foot, 6-foot spans, basically what you're already doing in most cases. If you're doing 4-foot spans on the East Coast, and you're using our 48X, chances are you could probably transition to this 44X seamlessly. You obviously need to check and make sure. There is some certain scenarios where you might have huge snow loads, and you might want to stick with 48X or maybe 48XL if that's what you're using. But 44 does perform very well, and you can do 4-foot, 6-foot spans, regionally based. And again, it is certified to 100-pound snow load, up to 100-pound snow loads, and 200-mile-per-hour winds. So it's regionally based, but we do have our span charts, and we are very specific in our span charts. We've opened it up and given more information. So if you go into our span charts and you want to figure out what's best for you, talk to a sales rep near you. We have them in all different regions. I showed you who's who. And I can go back to that slide if you want to get in touch with your local rep and figure out what system works best, and they can help you kind of translate the span charts that make sense for you, because there's a lot of information in there, and we get very specific on our span charts. So again, we are moving to a single tool system, which is a big deal for us. So all the components that I've showed you is all moving to a 13-millimeter socket. I know some of you guys were wishing we went to 1/2 inch, but we are a German-based company. US is, we went back and forth on this, and we settled on 13 millimeters. So your 13-millimeter socket, this will actually grab a 5/16 lag bolt. So if you're using a 5/16 lag bolt, chances are you're going to be using 1/2 inch sockets on these. A 13-millimeter socket will effortlessly grab a 5/16 lag and drive it in. So all I have is 13-millimeter in my tool bag, and that does everything now. You can do your mounts. You can install for in all cases for your tile hooks or the Everflash XP, and now you can keep that same socket on there and use it for all the components. So our new Yeti clamp, which is a hidden end clamp that you see there, that is transitioning the new ground lug, all of our components for the structural splice, everything is now single tool. So again, this will transition as we get through our old stock, but we can go through these one by one. So if you notice, if you haven't used our system yet, you'll notice that we have these what we call an MK3. So this is that bottom channel there. So Al did a great video. We're doing this tips from Basecamp videos now on our website, on our YouTube channel, and on our website, where we're basically, it's like the homeschool edition. Everybody's home, working from home. This is a great time to learn if you're not able to be out on the job site every day. We're doing these videos just to show you how these components work. And one of the big features is our clamps. This MK3 is It's got integrated bonding in here. You can see these little, we call them volcanoes. These little rivets here bite into the anodization of the rail. So when you go to install this, the MK3 goes into the rail channel, kind of like so if you see here, this is 44 actually. You take these little plastic tabs. These are not structural. These are just installation aids. So they allow you to grab it. And I hear a lot of people say, one-handed. You can do this one-handed. And it's true. You grab it here, grab it by these tabs, drop it into the rail, and then you turn it, and it acts like a big, basically almost like a strut nut. If you've ever used strut on any kind of wire holders or anything, they have the struts in almost every single commercial building, and it's a similar kind of aspect where this slides in. You have much more rail engagement, not just a little T-bolt going in where if it's not turned properly, it will slip out. So this is pretty heavy duty. I mean, the German engineering is a real thing, and we've taken what they've created and we've improved it for our market here. You can turn it out by I usually kind of give it a little shake and just turn, because it bites into the anodization with that grounding and it pulls out. So I was mentioning our tips from Basecamp that Al did, his homeschool edition, which I love that name. But he talks about these tabs, and these tabs again are not structural. They are basically an installation aid just to grab it and turn it and put it into place. So if this little, if you manhandle it and break this plastic tab, it's no big deal. You can still install it. You can kind of push in there and push the T-bolt into place, or you can take these tabs. We send these out to some of our big customers who want these to, like if you're not on the job and shelter in place is taking place and you're organizing your warehouse, you can take all those pieces and parts that you have on the bottom of your truck and you can rebuild these. You can put these new plastic tabs on there to fix it if you want to put parts back together. So we did do a little quick tip video on that. We can even do one on rebuilding these if you want. But this is what we call the MK3 here. And MK3 technology gets you better rail engagement into the rail. And it also allows you to slide it around. So if you put this, this is used for our mid clamps, our end clamps, as well as our optimizer mounting kit, or the microinverter. That's the little bracket there, and I have one here. That's a little optimizer mounting kit that allows you to put an optimizer or a microinverter onto the rail. Same MK3. The new grounding lug also uses that, and our mids and ends, anything that goes on top of the rail uses this MK3. So our biggest, one of our biggest improvements to our system is not only single tool, but if you look closely, some of you guys might have installed, if you're using Everest now, you'll see, let's see if I have an old one. Well, you can see I try to put side by side, actually I have it in the next slide, but this is our original end clamp, which is still going to be sold, and it has that standard bolt there. But if you look closely, our mid clamp used to have that same bolt going all the way through to the MK3, but now we've introduced this cylinder here, and this allows you, let me go to the next slide, that will show you a little bit better. So if you look closely, now you have this cylinder here where this top bolt, which now is a hex head, you can see there, so that allows you to be single tool. And now that hex goes into that cylinder so that it's not dropping down and taking up room in the rail. And now you have way more room to do wire management. So this is a really nice feature. Everything is spring loaded and ready to go. This is how it comes out of the box. So if you're interested in obviously in switching to this, which I'm sure you are, especially if you're already using our system, this will start to come into play in the next month or two. It's going to depend on distributors going through our old stock and getting this shifted in. So we're going to have some patience, but it's going to happen. It's already available and it's coming in, and distributors are already ordering it for next month. So this goes into the rail, and now you can see you have much more room in there for wire management, and you can get, up to 3 or 4 wires depending on the size to go through there. And obviously we have different rail channels. You saw 44, 48, and 80. They have different depths. But this is our new our new universal mid clamp that is coming into play with this whole system improvement. So I try to put side by side there in your slide. You can see, and if you're on the distribution side or if you're ordering parts, you're wondering about part numbers, if you want the new hex, which is this guy here, and you can see it on the right there, the new part number basically just has the H at the end. So if you see it, a part number, and it has the H at the very end, that is the hex for the single tool application. So like I said, it's just natural when you have new products, you gotta get through the old product and the old stock. We're still gonna have some of these available for a long time. Mexico's sticking with our standard system for a while, so we'll still have parts. So it's just a transitional phase that we're going to be going into next month. You'll start to see these products start to shift through some of our distributors' inventory. So this is one of our biggest features. So you got the hex head there at the top. You got that new cylinder that receives the bolt, kind of a male-female connection there on the hardware. It's still spring-loaded, still has the MK3 integrated bonding. Nothing's changed there. It's just a better product that's going to allow you to install faster and do more wire management in the rail channel. So you can see that there. And there's the kind of demonstration of wires. And then we also have the Yeti clamp, which is already available, but now we are transitioning to the the hex head. So again, part numbers, you're going to see that H at the end there. I keep pointing at my screen because I have two screens, and as if you can see that, but you can see my screen there, and you can see the part number. I listed it there. If you want to jot that down, it's the H at the end is going to be the new single tool aspect of that. So the hidden end clamp is a really beautiful product. If you have not used this yet, this is what we call the Yeti clamp. Obviously, it's like the Yeti. You don't see it. It's hidden. So this works with all of our CrossRail systems. You basically just take it in there. If you look closely, I always consider these like wings, and they fall right on top there and they land on there. And then you can rock it in and you push it back. And then it allows you to put your module frame down, cut the rail flush with the module edge. And then it actually has a really nice feature in there. If you look closely, there's a little, I can show you closer. If you look closely in there, it has a little lip in there where you can grab a zip tie and put in a zip tie and pull it towards you. You don't really need it, in all honesty. I've just put my hand under and push it on the back. It's just so when you put in your tool and you go to drive it in, you don't push it back. So you can either have a zip tie on there as a leash and pull it towards you and have that kind of friction, and then hit it. And what happens is this acts kind of like a hammer and goes down and grabs the flange on the inside. So they call it interior clamping on the module side. You could see a little image there, side by side comparison of our standard end clamp, which we're still going to continue selling, and our new Yeti clamp, which is a hidden end clamp. So it's got this little feature where it kind of cocks back that way so it's ready to go. So if you get it in the box and it comes loose, or you beat them up, or you have from old job sites that you didn't use them or whatever, you just kind of loosen the bolt, set that back, and you click that back onto that flange there. If you look closely, it allows you to push it back and have it ready so it's not interfering with the module. So what I usually do is run one side with the module flush to the rail. Everybody corners out their array when you're doing chalk marks and measurements, and you know where your array is going to start. So I would put the rail either flush to it or leave a little play out if you want to chop it at the end, or you can start it there and then run the rails all the way out and then not cut anything. You can even land all your modules, and then the last module you lay down, you can stick this underneath, lay the module down, mark it, bring the module up, chop it to that mark, bring it down, and then it's perfectly flush with the array. And aesthetics are everything in this industry. If you see the array from the side, you can install this to where you don't see those rails at all. So it's a nice feature. Again, this is a part of this new product introduction. It's not a new part, but it's a new improvement to the system where you have the hex now instead of the Allen, which I never had a problem with the Allen. I mean, we were a two-tool system before, where you were just using this Allen. So basically, when you were done installing all the mounts and you were going to start laying down modules and components and mid clamps, that's when you would switch to this, and you'd have that for the rest of the day. But now you can do just a single tool, your 13 millimeter on all of these systems, and that works for everything. So our standard end clamps are going to stick with the Allen because that little head on there doesn't fit an Allen. We are improving that as well. But if you want to go fully single tool right now, today, and you want to order systems for this, then you would do the Yeti clamp, which already has that hex. The next improvement we're making is the standard end clamps moving to a hex as well eventually as we improve our next set of end clamps. So you have options there for standard or hidden. So again, there's the part number difference. Again, you can order the Yeti clamps now. They're already there, but that is going to be an Allen tool because that's what we came out with first. And the hex tool, single tool, is coming into play next month. So if you want part numbers, they're the same except for that H at the end. So again, I know some of you guys are wanting this now. It's going to take some time for our distributors to transition. Some of them are faster than others. Some of them still have products that they need to work through, and we're going to help them work through that, and we're going to help you work through that. So so we appreciate, the patience when we make, anytime you make a transition to new products, it is obviously there's that gray area, but in the end it will go through quick, couple jobs and you'll be through it. So the Everest ground lug also uses the MK3 that I mentioned here, and this is again a part of the new system change where you have that hex on there, so it's single tool, and this also allows you to engage it into the rail, so you can install it into the rail channel and have it flush with the rail on the top, and then you can have your ground wire run into there. So this is designed to grab the rail. It's a pretty dramatic price difference on this the existing system we had, which is a side slotted ground lug. So you don't have to bend the wire up. So this allows you to install it on the top channel like you see there. We still are going to offer our side ground lug, which is the 10.3. That is the original ground lug that we have now. You can order this ground lug now, the Everest, we're calling it the Everest ground lug. So it's specifically for CrossRail, and it's pre-assembled with this MK3 on there. You can order this now, like I said. It's just that the new improvement is going to have the hex, and that's coming into play here in the next month. But it is available right now as the standard system now, so you can order that, and it is UL listed, UL 2703. It allows you to install again on the top channel of the rail, and you can tuck it in, which this picture shows you pretty clearly there, where you can tuck it in underneath the system, or you can put it on the outside if you want. But it goes into the top channel. And if you still want to mount to the side of the channel, you can do that with our 10.3. So we're going to continue to offer both if you're wanting that. Our rail connector, the new 44X is going to have its own rail connector. This is it here. It's pretty slick. It's simple. It's same application, same T-bolts as you're using for any standard. If you're doing our XP that comes with this T-bolt set to put the rail to the L-foot to the roof attachment, it's the same T-bolt. So you're not using any special hardware. You're not doing any self-tapping into the rail, where sometimes I know you guys are all using impacts when you're really not supposed to on certain products for hardware, but it still is. This has got some flexibility in the sense that you're not driving hex screws into here and shearing the head off. This is the same. It's a mechanically fastened, so you turn that T-bolt in there, it grabs that just like the L-foot does, and you tighten that down. Single tool. Still can use that 13 millimeter or half-inch socket, whichever you're using. Tighten that down, and it is a truly structural splice, meaning that there are no rules of having it back one or two mounts from the cantilever. You can install this splice almost anywhere. So, granted, I mean, you can technically cantilever it out if you really need to, but if you're obviously in snow country where there's a lot of snow load, you're not going to want to cantilever that out. But if you're in California, Arizona, depends where, I mean, different wind, different snow, but this system, this rail connector is very strong because of those bolts that are connecting into the rail and not drilling self-tapping screws into the side. So it provides more structural strength engineering, and you can install it pretty much anywhere in the system. So it's a huge advantage. Some wire management solutions with this system change. We have the new TC wire management clip. That is a brand new product that just came out, and I believe it's already getting ordered and is in stock at certain distributors. And this allows you to put the wires inside the channel and also clip this over and snap this on. And, you know, if you're transitioning your wires outside of this system, you can run, you know, sometimes you're going down a row or you want to put your connectors on the outside. Some jurisdictions are saying that they want your connectors on the outside. So if that's the case, you want to run all your wire, then pull them out and run along the rail side. We have some wire clips. We have this Omega clip. Let's see, where did I put that one? Here we go. So this Omega clip allows you, and Nick's got some great examples. I'll let him take over the screen for a second. But this is our Omega clip that allows you to clip to the side of the rail. And we also have our Hay clip that clips into the rail, but also provides a metal clip on the side. So that's kind of best practices if you want to have two on the sides of your connector and then jump into the rail or run all your wires in the rail. Just depends on your preference. But this new TC wire management clip is really nice, where it allows you, TC stands for top channel. Let's open the blinds a little here. If you see this is our new TC wire clip, and it goes, like I said, on top of the rail. So you basically just clip this over, it snaps into place, doesn't move around, and allows you to take that transition of rail coming or wire coming out of the rail and keep it tight in there. So you don't have to rely on zip ties that may fail over time. This is a high density plastic that is going to last the system last lifespan of the system. So there's the part numbers there. If you're wondering about that, that's a brand new product that just came out. Like I said, we're coming out with all kinds of new stuff. Nick, before I move into documentation, do you want to show, I know you had a cool you were playing around with some wires. I don't know if you want to show your little example of wire management that you had there. We are going to do a whole video on wire management. We just shot some footage if you want to check that out. Maybe Nick's multitasking on the phone. So that's okay. So if you go to our website, you click those three lines in the top left corner. I keep pointing to my screen like you can see, but you can see my cursor there. If you click those three lines, you're going to see products. You go down there and you can find, this is actually in our banner that's flying across the home page. You click on the single tool and you can get all the documents there. There's an example of a great document that Dakota came up with, and it shows all the systems, shows all the part numbers, everything you need for this new system. Like I said, if you guys are interested in this, feel free to talk to your distributor, but give them some time, because they're not going to just take this and throw away their old stock. And, you know, we got to work through the existing product, which does work with everything here. You can intermix all of this, but eventually you're going to see everything go single tool, and our 44X is becoming available. It's just landing on our shelves now, and our distributors are working through and figuring it out. So some of them know, we've done presentations with them and we're showing this. Some of our inside sales team is already helping with designs. We got Ryan Estrada on here. Some of you guys might know him. He does a lot of our design, base design tool designs and training for customers, as well as Nick. There's Nick. Nick, do you want to show some of your wire management stuff, or I don't know if you wanted to talk about that? Go for it. I think you're muted, buddy. You're still muted.
There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to just real briefly go over some of the wire management options here with the Omega clip and the TC clip. I have a piece of 44 right here, and here's kind of an illustration of how you can get your leads into the channel there. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward. There's plenty of real estate in here. The TC clip clamps to the top. So you have the option of putting wires on the side channel into the top channel, and then putting your MC4 connector in there as well. You also, at the TC clip, you can do these nice looms right here. And this is very supportive for making sure that your leads aren't drooping down on the roof. Sometimes you have an accessory like an inverter, microinverter mounted to the rail, or you have a power optimizer or maximizer mounted to the rail. Looming the cable like this and making sure that it's actually not exceeding the bend radius of the cable is ideal. The TC clip does a perfect job of that. And then you can go right back out with a Omega here on the side to continue on your runs. So just real briefly dipping in here, showing you guys that there's options here with your wire management. So we've been able to
cool.
at least, we've been able to fit at least 2 PV cables in there. I've been able to fit 3. I kind of max it out on 3, but I've been able to fit Enphase IQ cables in here. If you're working with other trunk cables, they can fit. Just make sure that you're up to speed on whatever accessory you're using on the rail. Some cables are getting smaller. The IQ cable from Enphase definitely did get smaller. It only has 2 conductors inside. The AC cable from LG, I think, might have 4 conductors inside, so it might be a little bit larger. Still plenty of real estate inside the rail, so you can actually do these kind of things, braid your cable, loom it properly, and then continue on with a nice, safe, and functional install.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, wire management is super important. If you're not on the installation side and maybe you're selling and helping design with installers and helping them order parts, their biggest, they got lots of things to address on the roof, but one of the biggest things is wire management. So it's really key for them to run wires. In fact, I think I have, I'll show it another time, but I have a full little mini system that I'm going to do. I'm going to show some wire management options with Nick and show you what he's talking about in a little bit more detail. So we have these tips from Basecamp on our Basecamp website. So that's our training portal. I'm trying to switch to the next slide here. So Basecamp is our training portal, and you can go on there. There's webinars, videos, where we're going to be for conferences once we get back to that world. But since we're all kind of sheltering in place and we can't go out there, we're doing a lot of training. So if you're interested in the system, we can do, private trainings and webinars for your team, and we can talk about how do you guys install. I like asking installers, what do you do now? What works best for you? And we can adapt our product and adapt our training to what you're already doing. Everybody operates differently. Some people have some companies have just a roof crew and just an electrical crew. Some it's just one crew does it all. You operate in different capacities, so we can train you with these products on not only how to design, order, and install, but also how to stock the products. Like I have in my garage, I have Everest stock, and I can see how there's challenges for some installers to keep organized, and I found it really easy to keep these products really organized. Everything's labeled, and I've got boxes with the pictures on it, and I keep all the mid clamps together, obviously the end clamps together, and everything's pre-assembled, so it's really easy to just grab and go. And obviously parts come apart if you're taking systems apart and you want to fix it. So all that stuff, we're starting to do some training content, not only on product application, but how we can kind of help you improve with using our product, how to fix things, how to install things, how to stock things. So, and then the Everest base tool as well is something that we're starting to see a lot more installers use and ask about. So transitioning, actually, it's a good transition. I see some questions coming in. We're basically wrapping up here, but if you have questions, dump them in there. I see Sean asked engineering design tool for 716. So we are incorporating 716 into our design tool. It's something that's happening right now. For 44X, we just got those letters recently. The product is done, certified, approved, ready to go. It's just a matter of transitioning that into the design tool. So if you're using our design tool now, All of our sales reps can help you go through that, but we are starting to introduce all of our new letters into the design tool. It's not there for everything yet, but it is starting to come into play for some of our legacy products, and this is transitioning into it now. So, Sean, your question is 716 in the base design tool. It is coming into play, some of it faster than others. And Tyler's on the line too, and he works on a lot of that, so I don't know if he wants to chime in there on the design tool, but it is coming into play. He's kind of the leader on that. I don't actually see many questions. That was the only one I saw there. I don't know if, Nick, you want to elaborate on anything else, but if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in there. Let's see. And everything is getting updated on the website, so if you have questions, we're starting to post this information on our website, or we can send it to you personally. So you can always send an email to info@everest-solarsystems.com, and a couple of us get that, as well as some of the sales team, and they can get you some of that information. So, and if you want to chat with me, there's my contact information, there's my email and my direct line. You can get me as well. So I manage all the marketing, technical training. We all do technical support. Our inside sales team is great. I'll pull that general number up again, that you can call and talk to somebody on the inside sales team. We have client services who know more technical sides of things and can help you with the base tool. And samples will eventually be ready. It's just, obviously we're not allowed to be all at the office, so we can't get those built fast enough. So there will be some time, but we will have sample kits ready to go once we're all allowed to get back in there and get things organized. So again, if you guys have questions, feel free to type them in. I don't know if I'm missing any, but I don't see any other questions. Nick, do you want to add anything?
Just wanted to make sure everybody knows we are available for, as Johan mentioned, we are available for one-on-one training with our design tool and video conferences just like this. If you want to get up to speed with some of the newer products, please do reach out to the technical sales team, reach out to your regional sales rep, reach out to me. We can get you guys supported and tuned up on some of the advancements that Johan presented on. And if you have questions about simple things like, or complicated things like the wire management, let us know and we can make sure that you get your questions addressed, and we can support you guys moving forward.
All right. So this is a part of our NAVCEP. Somebody's asking questions there. It's not automatically sent out. If you want NAVCEP credits, you just email down there, marketing@everest-solarsystems.com. and we'll send that out individually. It's all done individually, so we have to put your name on there and send that out. I don't know if Dakota wants to add to that, but she or Lauren may get back to you to send that certificate. It's a 1-hour webinar, and that's a part of our residential and commercial system, actually. So if you want that, just shoot an email over. I got the email on the screen there, the bottom, marketing. Any other questions? I think that's it. Let me double check. I think that's it. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to email us there. There's the general line, info@everest-solarsystems.com, and we can address any of your questions as needed. And again, feel free to go to our website, check some of our videos, or we can host some trainings for your crews independently. If that's something you're interested, just shoot us an email and we'll follow up with that. So thank you guys. I appreciate the attention and participating. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.